What is up, and welcome to the Red and Bold Show. We're back this Sunday after taking Easter off, and what a week it's been. What a weekend it's been. Ant is probably tired. He's been on the air almost nonstop this weekend. How's it going, Ant?
Yeah, it's going good. Yeah, it's been all weekend. Thursday night draft party in San Francisco with John Chapman. Friday night draft party in San Francisco with John Chapman. And then yesterday, I decided that I was just going to go live the entire time for day 3. It was a blast. Lots of great people in chat. I had a really good time. And besides one stretch in the draft where the 49ers didn't pick, it felt like it didn't take very long. It was a breeze. And it was a lot of fun. So yeah, draft was spectacular. I had a great weekend.
Well, it was a lot of fun watching and listening to everybody. You and John did great. I wasn't there for the whole thing, but I cut in and out, and y'all are great as always. I love listening to your Thursday show. And so if anybody's watching or listening and you haven't listened to John and Ant on Thursdays, make sure you do that. By the way, I am your host, Marc Adams. You can find me at 49ers Camelot. Just on the off chance you just got here and have no clue who this ugly guy is next to Mr. Anthony Robertson, who you can find at 49ers Cutback. We're thrilled that you've joined us. A little shocked by the news that broke yesterday that Malik Mustafa had surgery to repair an ACL injury after the final game of the season. I'm not sure how that slipped through the cracks, but nobody seemed to know about it, so I don't feel quite as stupid for not knowing it. But that's going to hurt a little bit. I mean, his mom thinks he can be back for week 1. I'm not sure how that's going to happen. Hopefully it wasn't a bad injury and he can come back soon, but the 49ers really need him.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I did hear all the reports that it was going to be mid-season return for Malik Mustafa. And then I was on Twitter yesterday and I saw Malik Mustafa say, wait, mid-season, what are we talking about here? And so it did come out that it was a pretty clean tear. It was the ACL. It did not involve the meniscus. It didn't involve anything else. So that's good news. So you're talking, potentially 7 months. The Niners season did end early. So that does put him kind of in the category of sometime around training camp. It gets close to that period of time where he could come back. I think what we saw last year from Talanoa Hufanga might be the timeline where he starts the season on the PUP list. And then somewhere in or actually Talanoa Hufanga, they didn't even put on the PUP list. He just was able to come back. Sometime in those first 3 or 4 games, probably Malik Mustafa comes back if everything works out perfectly. So hopefully that's the case, but there is a chance Malik Mustafa won't be available until, 6 games into the year. And I do think that hurts, and probably why the 49ers did address safety so much in free agency and also in the draft.
Yeah. Just as a note, Ant, I'm getting a little bit of an echo from your mic. I don't know if anybody else hears that, but just to let you know that. I want to read some of these comments in the chat. David Morazza said, thank you for all the great draft content this season, Ant. We all are thankful for that. Y'all do a great job. Hugh said the 49ers got better this weekend. Anthony said A draft. So he's given this draft an A. Ernest said, I love this draft, to be honest, other than no O-line. Josh said the best run-stuffing edge in Michael and 2 of the best run-stuffing defensive tackles in West and Collins. And then he said that Seagull is a sneaky good pick. Let's see. Crazy Juice said we need better medical staff. And then Terry said, thank you, Ant, for your great coverage over the weekend. I think we missed an opportunity to draft Miles Frazier. And, of course, the Detroit Lions took advantage in the 5th round. Yeah, that stinks. Jay said C.J. West is a bully beast. Crazy Juice said B overall for the draft. Jesse, all of the defensive picks made me very happy. Good to kick things off with some draft talk, and we're going to get into that. Before we do, why don't you jump in and do your little jingle here for us?
Yeah, got to pay the bills, right, Mark? So if everyone is going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into the home stretch for NBA and NHL playoffs. Bet Online has more ways for you to stay in the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With a large selection of odds on everything from Major League Baseball, NHL, and UFC, Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head on over to the Bet Online casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Bet Online, the game starts here. So that's the jingle, Mark. That's the Bet Online. If people are betting, that's what they got to do. They got to use Bet Online.
There you go. Thanks for doing that. Now let's get into the draft. A lot of people betted on the draft. I'm sure a lot of people used Bet Online for the draft. And so we're going to talk about the results next Sunday when we come back. I want to talk about the undrafted free agents, but with 11 picks, I don't think we're going to have time to talk about the draft picks and the undrafted free agents. So I wanted to get into at least the draft picks today. So strike while the iron's hot. Let's start with pick number 1 in the first round, Mykel Williams, the edge, the defensive end, whatever you want to call him, from Georgia. The 49ers believe that he was the best at setting the edge in college football last year, especially when we're talking draft. He's definitely going to upgrade the run defense for sure. The two questions that I have for you, how will he do that? And also want to know what you thought about the pick. I know that John, when you guys were talking, John really liked the pick. So how's he going to upgrade the run defense by setting the edge? And number 2, how effective can he be as a pass rusher? Is this a guy that's just going to play on first and second down, or might he be a 3-down guy?
I think he can be a 3-down guy. I think right now the focus is going to be how he's going to play on first and second down, setting the edge. And no one is wrong by saying he's the best edge setter in this entire draft. That's not even an argument. And I think when you look at the way that he holds up, some of the usage that he has with his hands, he talked about his wrestling background a little bit, that gives him a basis to be able to set a firm edge. And he played a different style position at Georgia. So he either lined up in a 4-eye or a 5-tech, which is inside on a tackle, where in the wide 9, he's going to play further outside. So it's going to change a little bit. But this dude has great football IQ and recognition of what's coming at him, whether that's pulling linemen or tight ends coming to wham him. He's really good at figuring that out. He studs these guys up, and he makes sure he sets a hard edge. Run defense is not going to be a problem for Mykel Williams. The question marks for him are going to be, what's he going to do pass rush-wise? He admitted himself he doesn't have great pass rush plans. That's what he's going to try to get from Nick Bosa. But when it comes to power, he's got it. This dude has got all the power in the world. He can bull rush. He's got a long arm, a straight arm that he uses really effectively. The question mark is, can he bend the corner? We haven't seen it. Last year, we definitely couldn't see it. He had a sprained ankle. So that's going to be one of the question marks about how effective can he approach the offseason and get better when it comes to rushing from the wide 9 alignment. I think if you're, like they talked about, moving him inside sometimes on obvious pass downs, kind of the Arden key role, that might be where he has the most success early on in his career, where he can go against offensive guards, where he is super strong, but also has more lateral quickness, is more athletic for some of these slower guards. So I think that's the pass rush plan for him early on in his career, but defensive, stopping the run, setting the edge, he's going to be one of the best ones right from day one.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he's like the inverse of Alden Smith. Remember when Alden was a rookie, he didn't really play on the base downs. He was mostly a pass rushing specialist. And who was it that played those base downs? I can't remember who it was. His name's like right on the tip of my tongue, but maybe I'll remember it later. But anyway, and so I don't know if Williams is going to be the inverse of that, where he's going to be there on the base downs and not on the pass downs. But maybe, like you said, they'll move him inside. Yeah, Paris Harrelson. I knew that one of us would get that, or somebody in the chat would. But yeah, so that's what they did with Alden Smith in what was that, 2011? I guess it would have been. Do you see comparisons like body type? I heard some people kind of saying that he reminds just how he's built of Alden Smith. Obviously, he doesn't have the pass rush, but Alden. I mean, did any of us know in 2011, right after the draft, that Alden Smith was going to be the pass rushing threat that he was?
No, I don't think so. A lot of people thought that was a reach, that Alden Smith shouldn't have went where he went. The elite arm length was something that, of course, always got the attention of Trent Baalke, and so that was one of the things they really liked about him was the length. And Malik Williams has great length as well, 34 3/8 inch arms. It's plenty long enough. It's not Alden Smith long, but it's long, and I think that that's something that helps when you're talking about keeping that offensive player away from you. Because if he is going against a tackle that has sub 33 sub 34 inch arms, he's going to have an advantage if he can beat him to the chest plate. And with his power, that's going to help. He's got a speed to power combination that's really good. I wonder, I don't want to get too far into the comparison of him to Alden Smith because I do think they win different ways. Alden Smith had some really good pass rush moves, and I thought that where he needed to get better was setting the edge. And I think Malik Williams is kind of the opposite of that. But I do get the body style comparisons because he's big, he's strong, but he still looks lean, even though he is big and strong. And so he's gonna set a firm edge. He's gonna be a solid player. I don't really have a firm comparison on who he could be, and I'm just a fan of that ability because they haven't had a guy that sets the edge like this. I mean, they had guys that did pretty good, right? Cleveland Farrell did pretty good, but Malik Williams is way better than Cleveland Farrell setting the edge. And I think that's what is going to be interesting to see is how well this 49ers defense stops the run now that they've got a really solid guy on the edge. It should make a big difference in the run lanes, especially on the inside, and make it a lot easier for linebackers to make tackles.
Chad in the chat asked, on 3rd and long, who do you see the Niners running out there?
I think on 3rd and long right now, I think you see Malik Williams moving inside with Yetur Gross-Matos and Nick Bosa on the outside. I think that will kind of be Malik Williams and Yetur Gross-Matos kind of interchangeable. Who plays inside, who plays outside. I think that's what they're going to do at first. I think you could see some Sam Okuwanu a little bit because I think he had some versatility to do that as well. But then right now, when it comes to pass rushing defensive line, I think they could go Kevin Givens. I think Kevin Givens could be that 4th guy. But I would actually love to see them go with some 4 defensive end sets. Go ahead. You have it when you have Yetur Gross-Matos and you have our new pick here, Malik Williams. Those 2 guys can hold up on the inside on 3rd and 8. You're not just going to run them over and get a first down with a 3rd and 8 or something like that. So those dudes are big enough to play on the inside. So I would love to see a 4 defensive end look, but I do think one of those defensive ends will either be one of the defensive tackles, Jordan Elliott or Kevin Givens early until CJ West develops a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be interesting on 3rd down. I think they're going to go heavy defensive end.
All right. The second pick was Alfred Collins, the Texas defensive tackle. I'm sure John Chapman was excited about this. He's a huge guy who's a handful for offensive linemen. Did you like this pick or did you love this pick? And how do you see the 49ers using him?
I can't say that I absolutely loved it. I liked it a lot. I was looking at interior offensive line, so that's why I can't say I love it because I don't want to go against my own opinion. But I love the player. If you're talking about a guy that's going to stop the run at a high level, Alfred Collins is that guy. This is a pick that everyone should get behind because he's going to stop the run. If there was a brilliant run stopper in this draft, he might have been the best interior defensive tackle against the run. And so you're getting a mountain of a man. And so this dude is he's going to be in there on 1st and 2nd down early on in his career. And he's going to absolutely stuff duo blocks, right? This has been a problem for a lot of teams or a lot of 49er teams that have went against other teams that run duo. They just double duo, get a vertical push, and then run right up the middle. That's how they were gashing us. Alfred Collins stops that right away. You want to double team this guy? He's going to hold his ground. This is a big dude with some long arms. I think he has some pass rush upside as well. So it's one of those things where I'm a firm believer in this player. And where they took him is absolutely where they should have went, especially since Tyleik Williams, Kenneth Grant already went off the board. Don't miss your chance to get one of the elite run stoppers in the entire draft. I think with the athleticism too, a 4.95, are you kidding me? At over 330 pounds.
Yeah.
The dude is an extreme athlete. This is going to be a lot of fun. The 49ers got themselves an absolute stud.
And so do you see him primarily as just a run stuffer, or is he going to be in there on third down any? How do you see him being used? I see somebody in the chat. See, David said that he saw the Texas in Texas, Alfred lined up D end on some third downs, so that he thinks he has some versatility to play some 3 technique.
Yeah, I think he does have versatility. I think he could play 1 or 3. I think the 49ers plan on using him on early downs early on. But Alfred Collins has the ability to be a pass rusher. He just hasn't been productive. He had 1 sack. So you have to define why that is. You know, what is preventing him from being able to get home? It's not that he can't penetrate. It's not that he can't get in the backfield. It's not that he doesn't have elite traits or athleticism. He just got to get better when it comes to his pass rush repertoire, how he handles moves. And then that'll kind of generate some opportunities for pass rush. It also helps when you have other really good players around you. So I think having Nick Bosa, having Mikael Williams, having CJ West, who we'll talk about in a minute, that could help him extensively. So I do think he's versatile, but I think early on he's going to be considered more of the 1 tech, and he is going to be the primary run stopper. And then I think as time goes, they're going to develop him, and they're going to hope, hey, maybe there's a lot of pass rush upside. I think that's what they're really hoping.
I'm curious to see what you thought about pick number 3, Nick Martin, the linebacker out of Oklahoma State. I think this is a sneaky good pick because this is a guy who probably fell because of injuries. And if they can get the healthy version of Nick Martin, especially the one that we saw a couple of seasons ago, then he could really be a great player. He's fast, ran a 4.5 at the combine. Larry Krueger called this the best of the first 3 picks. So what do you think? You think he's going to beat out D Winters to start along Fred Warner? I don't know how long this knee injury is going to keep him out, but he did miss some time last year.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and you look at that 2023 season, I think that's what everyone's kind of drafting him off. He had 140 tackles. So the dude was absolutely flying around, and that's the film that's the most impressive is what he was doing that year. Now, the expectation is he's not going to miss any time because he's already running. He's already doing all the testing. He ran a 4.5 post injury. So this is a guy that's ready to roll. I think that there's a lot of things that people look like. I mean, John Lynch said it during the presser that this is a very Dre Greenlaw-esque type pick. And he's not Dre Greenlaw. Let's not get that. But I think that there are some things about him that make you think he's kind of in that mold, right? 5'11". A lot of people consider him undersized. They consider Dre Greenlaw undersized. They said he was maybe a hair slow when it came to reading things. They say the same thing about Nick Martin. But one thing about Nick Martin is he's absolutely explosive. This dude, when he sees it, he goes. That was one of the things that was great about D Winters as well. Trigger pulled, downhill go. Nick Martin, though, D Winters brings some pop. Nick Martin brings a different kind of attitude and a different kind of pop. But he's got long arms, too, to be able to wrap these guys up and be a secure tackler. This is a really great pick. And it's just not very 49ers-esque. That's why I think a lot of us saw the 49ers not taking Nick Martin in the 3rd round because they've been leery of injuries. So they must feel very comfortable with his knee and that everything's okay. That's why I put a 5th round grade on him because I'm like, hey, they're not going to take anyone till day 3 that has injury concerns because that's what they've been doing lately. Well, they blew us all out of the water. And you know what? I'm glad they did because if Nick Martin was an inch taller and about 10 to 15 pounds heavier, it probably would have been a top 25 pick. Like that's how explosive he is moving sideline to sideline. He's got all the natural ability. Now, we'll say this about him and D Winters. I don't know if Nick Martin steps in day 1. I think D Winters has still got a leg up. He's been in the system for 2 years. He's really good in coverage, and that's what you need your will linebacker to do. But Nick Martin's coming to push, and I love that. Let's get 2 super hyper-athletic linebackers around Fred Warner with 2 impressive defensive tackles and a defensive end that can stop the run. Now those linebackers can run free and roam, and that's going to make for a very fun defense. So I love this pick for that reason. Just like with all things, it was just surprising because it happened a little bit earlier than what people were expecting, but great player.
Yeah, I'm an Oklahoma guy, and because I lived there for a long time, so I'm OU. But I grew up in Arkansas, so I was a Razorback before I became a Sooner, and so I still really pay attention to the Razorbacks and love that team. They never go anywhere or do anything. But this past season, um, man, I think it was this past season. Nick Martin had a day against the Hogs, and I don't remember what his stats were. I just remember hearing his name a lot, and it wasn't going my way. Um, so yeah, I really like that pick. The fourth pick was this one caught me off guard as well. Hey Donald's in the chat here. Hey David, look at David Morazza giving Arkansas some love here. Had a lot of NFL talent this year. Yeah, right. Like some Arkansas love. That makes me happy. So pick number 4 is Upton Stout, the cornerback from Western Kentucky. Really kind of surprised by firstly, I was surprised because no offensive players among the first 4 picks. Now, I was okay with that. I just was a little surprised by it. But I love the focus on defense, and good luck running on this team this year. At least I hope that's the case. Because when the 49ers defenses have been at their best, whether you go back to Seifert's days as the defensive coordinator, or you go back to Pete Carroll or Ray Rhodes or Vic Fangio or Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, who name them. Whenever the 49ers have had a great defense, you haven't been able to run on that team. And so really was all about this. But this one caught me off guard a little bit. He projects as a nickel corner. In fact, Kyle Shanahan said that that's where they're going to start him out. He's just not very big. And so by all accounts, he's as tough as they come. My only concern is if he's playing nickel, he's going to be in on a lot of tackles. Can he hold up in the NFL? Now, according to PFF, he graded really well in the run game in college. And he was solid in pass coverage as well. Nick Wagner tweeted out, over the last 2 seasons, Stout has not allowed a touchdown as the nearest defender in coverage on 409 snaps. So a lot of people are saying that he reminds them of K'Wan Williams, who was really good under Robert Saleh with the 49ers. So where do you see him fitting in? Any concern about a smaller guy holding up? I wouldn't be as concerned if he was on the outside. I'm a little more concerned on the inside, and maybe that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first one, right, where John Lynch said that the plan went exactly the way they wanted. They were going to take Mikael Williams at 11, Alfred Collins 43, Nick Martin at 75, and then he wouldn't say that the plan was always to take Upton Stout at 100. My guess is Jacob Parrish went a little bit before that. That was probably going to be the 49ers target. He didn't last. Upton Stout's kind of in that same mold. And you brought up K'Wan Williams. I think he reminds me a lot of DJ Reed, kind of that mold of guy that's very physical. And you're right about the run defense. This guy plays better run defense than he does coverage. He steps up there and lights you up. Watching him on film, you do not think he's 185 pounds. You think he's closer to 200 because he comes up and he hits. He is like, it's like a missile. He just comes flying in and makes plays off the edge. He's a good blitzer. But what you have to have, and a lot of times why these nickel corners are a little bit smaller, they've got to be able to change direction really quickly. There is way more space with that slot corner being slot receiver being on the inside. They can go left, they can go right. You got to be able to flip quickly. That's something that allows these shorter corners to be able to do that. Not a lot of tall guys can do that at a high level. That's why Demo worked out inside. He's a little bit of a shorter corner. DJ Reed works out a little bit because they're a shorter corner. And he's got the ability to flip his hips and run with wide receivers. What I saw at the Senior Bowl from his film, he looked really good sticking with guys in one-on-ones. Did he get beat occasionally? Yes. This is an absolute competitor. And I said live on air, I said, you're getting a DAWG dog. And then he goes out and he calls John Lynch, or they call him, and it's all dog all the time. That was one of the most hilarious conversations But that's what you're getting. There's no lie there. This guy is a competitor, and they do see him as a nickel corner. I do think he can hold up. I think he's physical enough, and I think he's going to be a fan favorite the way Shark was. The question is always going to be with all nickel corners, can he cover that slot fade? And from what I saw on film, I believe he can. Diamond Lenore has been one of the only cornerbacks that played under Robert Saleh or D'Amico Ryans or whoever that could pull it off. And I think that he can do it as well. So I like this pick a lot. I was an Upton Stout fan. This was a little bit earlier than I thought he was going to go. But when you're talking about fit, it's ideal. And if you love your guy, go get him. And so I can see the 49ers love this guy, and it makes a lot of sense. You don't want to miss out on getting an elite nickel if you're planning on keeping Demo outside.
Yeah, I don't get too worried over the things where people are saying, oh, he was taken 84 picks before he was supposed to be taken. If he turns into the player, or any of these players turn into the player the 49ers think they're going to be, it's not going to matter where they were drafted. And so all it matters is that those guys become the player that the 49ers expect them to be. The fifth pick was CJ West, the defensive tackle out of Indiana, the first of two Hoosiers. He's been compared to DJ Jones, which I obviously love to hear. John Chapman said that CJ West is Chris Kasarek's type of guy, another run stuffer. The question is, will he start day one? And will he add much as a pass rusher? Nick Wagner wrote that since the start of the 2021 season, only one player in the FBS had at least 50 quarterback pressures and at least 50 run stops. That was CJ West. So will he start day one? And does he add much as a pass rusher?
I don't know if he'll start day one. I think he's going to have to beat out Jordan Elliott. I do think that there's a chance Alfred Collins starts at the 1 tech and Jordan Elliott starts at 3 tech. I think CJ West can push it, though. CJ West has got a lot of ability. You're talking about another guy that ran a 4.9 40. So these are some big individuals. And the DJ Jones thing is going to happen right away because he's 6'1". He's 317 pounds. He's going to play with great leverage. So those things show up on film. I think that they would love for him to be able to beat out Jordan Elliott. But the question is, how quick can he figure it out? Because with him and with Alfred Collins, they've got to get used to playing Chris Kasarek's way of playing football, which is completely attack-based. These guys haven't played a free type of defensive pass rush where it's all about penetration. Now, he does have the ability to be a penetrator, and that's why he can play 3 tech. And I think that's what they were alluding to in the press conference. I was shocked when they took him because I thought he was very similar to Alfred Collins. And I was wondering if they were going to take 2 big guys like that. But if they see him as a 3 tech, hey, that's kind of fun, right? You're going to get 2 elite run stoppers who can hopefully both of them develop into consistent pass rushers and eat up a lot of blockers and make it a little bit easier for everyone else. So I think he eventually develops into the starter next to Alfred Collins, and then you've got a really sturdy set. But Jordan Elliott starts at first, and that'll probably make a lot of people nervous. But I could see early downs as well. Sometimes them going with a package as those 2 guys to stop the run, with Elliott coming in maybe on 3rd down or even 2nd and long, and just kind of working this thing around so you can get your best guys out there in certain situations. Major upside, though. More upside, I think, than Alfred Collins when it comes to pass rush, because we've seen it before, right? When he was at Kent State, he had 5 sacks. There's a little bit more of a pass rush plan there. I think that both these guys are elite talents. Alfred Collins, though, elite length. That's the difference between the 2 guys.
This defense is going to be hard to run on, right?
Yeah. They're going to be so hard to run on. You added literally 3 of the top 4 run-stopping players in this draft up front. Wow. Mikael Williams, the best edge. CJ West and Alfred Collins, 2 of the top 3 defensive tackles stopping the run. There was a idea of what they were going to do. And then they added a linebacker like Nick Martin that could run. So now you add that to D. Winters. These are sideline-to-sidelines guys with Fred in the middle. The plan is in place. We're going to stuff the run, and we're going to let our linebackers run free, and they're going to absolutely smack you. And then I love that versatility. So I think that they have a detailed plan, and they're executing it right now to a high level. John Lynch was not kidding when he said, yeah, we have a plan. It's called the draft. And they did a really good job so far through. I mean, we just got to pick 113, and they've hit on so many keys to this football team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much pressure they can put on the quarterback. But stopping the run, I don't think is going to be a problem this year, and that was the glaring weakness last year. Pick number 6 was Jordan Watkins, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss. This was really the first pick that I started seeing fans of the team not happy about. He's a fast, big play wide receiver, 4.37 in the 40 at the combine. Last year had 5 catches of 60-plus yards, most in the FBS. The question is Kyle going to use him the way that we think that he wants to use a speedster like this? I mean, he's had some in the past, whether it's Danny Gray, or who's some of the others that he's had?
Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah, Marquise Goodwin. That's a great example. Even Jacob Cowing, I think maybe you'd put into that category. Not quite as fast as those guys, but this is a real burner. Is Kyle going to use him, and how is Watkins different than those others? How's he different than Goodwin and Gray?
I don't think he's, if you're talking about player profile, that much different from Danny Gray as far as size, weight, speed. Like those things are really similar. I think what you're hoping is that he's got a little bit more when it comes to route running. Danny Gray was a little unrefined when it came to route running, and that was something we always knew he had to get better at. But you were pairing him with Trey Lance, and you needed a vertical threat to go down the field. There were a lot of Trey Lance picks in that draft. Aaron Banks, Trey Sermon, Danny Gray. Those were all because you were going to change up the offense a little bit. When it comes to Watkins, you're getting a guy that's a way better route runner than Danny Gray, and I was a Danny Gray truther. I liked that guy a lot and what he provided the offense. So I think you're getting something different there. I think he also has the ability to play X, which separates him from a guy like Jacob Cowing, who I don't think can be a consistent X, because I worry about him getting off the line of scrimmage consistently. I think it's a lot better for him to play in the slot where he has a little bit of freedom and they can't press him a little bit. So he is a little bit different than Jacob Cowing, but I like the idea of getting 2 vertical threats potentially at times that you could use in different scenarios and line them up in different ways, because you have to create separation and room for guys like Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and George Kittle to operate in the middle of the field. That's still a thing the 49ers love to do, and that's the hallmark of their offense. So getting these guys that can do that. Now, Watkins does have that dynamic, explosive nature. You talked about the 60 yard touchdowns that he had. That's a key. Yards after the catch is huge. But also, one thing to remember, 9 receiving touchdowns last year. This guy's a playmaker, and he gets in the end zone. That's huge. So they needed to add that too, and I think that's a part of it. So this was, I think, an interesting pick when it happened. I think everyone was expecting O-line. They went wide receiver. But I think you can kind of understand it. And the questions about if Kyle's going to use him right, that's a different story. That's on Kyle Shanahan. But we'll see. This guy's got a lot of talent.
Let's see. Pick number 7. We're halfway home, over halfway home here. Pick number 7 was Jordan James, the running back out of Oregon. A lot of people are comparing him to Jordan Mason, similar in style. Not really a speedster, but evidently Frank Gore really likes him, so that's good enough for me. He was productive as a receiver out of the backfield, but I did hear that he dropped a lot of passes. He's a good blocker in pass protection. Seems to do well in short yardage situations. So part of me wonders if that was part of the thing that intrigued the 49ers, because last year they weren't good at short yardage and inside the red zone. Maybe this is a guy, he scored a ton of touchdowns in his career. Went 386 carries without a fumble. That's a Bobby Turner guy right there. How do you see him being used? Obviously, McCaffrey's the guy. I think that maybe he's going to be the number 2 guy, because I think that Garindo is, I don't really see him as a number 2 kind of guy. I mean, I think that he's going to be used in spots as a receiver, or maybe when you need a big play or whatever. Do you see Jordan James as the number 2 type, or do you think he's going to start low and just have to work his way up?
Well, I think what they've done is a good job of getting complementary pieces in the running back room, right? None of them are exactly alike. Christian McCaffrey is your unicorn. He could do it all. He's your premier back. Then you look at Isaac Garindo. He's got the explosive speed with the receiving combo that you could use if you need a third down back. Maybe McCaffrey needs to come out for a blow. He can handle that, but he's got the explosiveness to be able to whole shot a play. You get that from Garendo. With Jordan James, you're getting a more consistent runner back there that has great vision. That's really his number one trait, is his vision. And so he's going to have necessary speed to be able to get there. The thing that you like about him is once he reads the hole, boom, quick burst, downhill quickly. He's never, just like Jordan Mason, you're never going to see him get 60-yard runs. I know Mason had a couple where he broke, but you're going to get more like 25, 30-yard runs from Jordan James. He's going to get ran down by the quicker secondary players, but they're going to be explosive, chain-moving plays. And one of the things that's so great about Jordan James, 31 touchdowns inside the red zone. This dude wins. He finds creases. He gets downhill. He gets into the end zone, and he plays through contact. He turns negative plays into positive plays. That's something that I'm sure the 49ers desire. And then you brought up the fact that he takes care of the ball. That is one of the keys. So you had to trade away Jordan Mason. You couldn't afford to pay him. So why not bring in somebody that's similar, that probably has a little bit better vision, maybe a tad better elusiveness. He's not as big, but still plays very physical in the run game. I like the combination of the three guys together. And then who's going to be that fourth will be a different question. They signed Kiner, practice squad. We'll talk about him next week. But they also got Patrick Taylor and Israel Banakanda, former fifth-round pick of Robert Saleh with the New York Jets.
Yeah, I like the running back room, and I like that pick of Jordan James. Pick number 8 was Marquez Seagull. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Safety out of Kansas State. Seagull. Okay, thank you. So Marquez Seagull, Kansas State safety, fast guy, 4.37. I like this because I think the 49ers need some speed at safety. The Niners are his dad's favorite team. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, if my son got drafted by the Niners, I'd be running laps around the block. Team captain, which is kind of a theme here with some of their draft picks. At first I wrote, is this competition for Jair Brown in hopes that maybe this guy is better than Jair Brown? But with the news about Mustafa, who knows what's going to happen. But what do you think about Marquez Seagull?
Yeah, what was great was over on Patreon, the patrons put me on to Seagull ahead of the process. So I had actually got to watch him, which I was super pumped about. I like when I've actually got to lay eyes on him. And that's the thing you notice the most. He flies around. Like, he goes from the middle of the field all the way to the sideline, and it seems like it's in a hiccup. This dude got some speed. That translates. I also love versatility when it comes to secondary players, and he's one of those guys that can play the deep third and play free safety, but he's not afraid to come up and smack you in the box as well. The other thing I love is if you're getting a bad matchup in the slot, you can put Seagull there, and he can handle himself. That 4.37 speed, he can cover running backs out of the flat, or if they line up out wide, no problem. You want him to cover a tight end, he can handle a move tight end. So there's a lot of matchups that you really like with Seagull and with Upton Stout, and I think that's why they did that. Hyper athleticism, and Seagull is not undersized when you look at his overall matrix of how he fits 49ers normal safeties. I mean, this guy's 5'11", nearly 200 pounds. So he's a mover. And we talked about getting speed, right? Everyone was looking at Andrew Makuba. 49ers even met with Makuba. This guy's faster than Makuba. So I like this pick. I like the versatility that he's going to provide. And I'm very thankful to all the patrons for putting me onto him, because I don't know if I would have been, I don't know if I would have caught him if they didn't do that. So that was huge.
David Morazza said Seagull might be better than Mustafa, one of my favorite prospects. So yeah, I mean, that's I like hearing that. Is he a center fielder type? Because I know the 49ers work their safeties interchangeably, but I mean, they run that Seattle defense that Pete Carroll made famous with the Legion of Boom. And I mean, we all know that as great as Richard Sherman was, and sometimes they had great corners on the other side of him, sometimes they didn't. But to me, the key to that defense was Earl Thomas, roaming that center field area. Any chance? Obviously, I'm not asking if he's going to be Earl Thomas, but can he be that center field type, or are the 49ers just not do they just not have any interest in running that type, that variety of Seattle's defense?
Oh, he definitely can play center field. That's something that he's going to be capable of doing. The speed to be able to run, from sideline to sideline and cover anything you need him to cover. Yeah, this is one of those ones, right? They tried this with Tarvarius Moore. They tried to get that athleticism at safety. They tried it with DJ Reed. I remember they moved him to safety for a while. I think this is the same thing, right? It's funny. It's a K-State guy as well, but he does have the speed to be able to do that. He has a natural feel in coverage. And when he decides, he's electric, right? That was one of the things we loved about Malik Mustafa last year. When he decides something's happening, he goes. That's how Seagull is. So, yes, I do think he's a pure free safety, and I love adding that. He's definitely different than Jair Brown, Malik Mustafa, in how he's going to be able to cover the deep third. And the only other guy I think that they have right now that could do that is probably Richie Grant, who they signed in free agency. So they have a couple of guys now that they could potentially play with that have that, ability. Maybe Pinnock as well, who they brought in, former 5th-round pick of the Jets under Robert Saleh. They brought him in. He's a nickel corner / safety. So they're getting some guys now that have that ability to cover. I think this is the best pure free safety they have on the roster, though.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Pick number 9 was the quarterback out of Indiana, Curtis Rourke, another Hoosier, good college quarterback. But I don't know if he would have been drafted. Maybe they could have picked up a lineman here, but they must see something that they really like. He was really good until he was injured. So my guess is I don't know the status of his injury or his health, but my guess is that he's probably not going to be, maybe like PUP list or NFI or something like that this year for him. Maybe it'll be a redshirt year for him. I don't know. But if they really like him enough to draft him, I don't know that they're going to run the risk of somebody else grabbing him if they cut him loose. And so I also don't know what they think of Tanner Mordecai. So he would be 3rd at best this season, but next year, possibly he could be the number 2 quarterback, depending on his health and how things come along. What did you think about this pick?
Yeah, it was a surprising one. What's interesting is I was live yesterday. I actually said, hey, is this Quinn Ewers' time? I kind of just threw it out there because Quinn Ewers fit the 49ers system and he was still available on the board. And so when it came through Curtis Rourke, I think I was a little surprised it went quarterback, but overall, this guy fits what Kyle Shanahan wants. He is an elite passer when it comes to the intermediate part of the field. Like, that's where he is the best. And he's also a guy that's very accurate. He's quick to pull the trigger. We know that those things are things that Kyle likes. 29 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. And then John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan could not stop talking about the fact he played through a partially torn ACL during the season, showing his toughness. They talked about his finger being injured and him still leading his team to the playoff. I think that those things really stuck out about competitiveness. And he is a guy that will stand in there. He will take hits. There's no fear. And so I think that those are some of the things you like. He's 6'4", natural thrower of the football. So he's somebody you can work with. And you're right with the health. We don't know where that's going to be. That's why 7th-round pick makes sense. And we'll see. They said he could be ready for training camp. Maybe not. Will they put him on PUP list? I think there'll be a decision there with him and Tanner Mordecai. And I think if Curtis Rourke is healthy and on the field, I think he will beat out Tanner Mordecai. So this is going to be quarterback 3, maybe for 1-2 years until Mac Jones moves on. And then they think they've got a cheap option behind Brock Purdy. I think that makes sense. You got to draft certain positions, and quarterback, if you have one that you thought should have went in the 5th round, there's tremendous value.
All right. A lot of people in the chat have mentioned offensive line. So we finally get to talk about the O-line here. At pick 10, the 49ers took Connor Colby, the guard/center out of Iowa. I have 2 questions. First, is this Jake Brendel competition? Please say yes. And number 2, does Kyle and John realize that they're allowed to pick tackles?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the draft, it was interesting. There wasn't really that many tackles that were available. that were going to be able to come in. And, this was something we were talking about on the live stream. You got to a certain point in this draft, sometime in the 6th round, probably early, maybe even the late 5th round, where you weren't going to find a potential starter. It just wasn't going to happen. Now you look at the RAS score, and Connor Colby is basically an identical to Nick Seagull. Like, these guys are almost identical in a lot of different areas. So the 49ers have a unique type. I also don't know if he can play center. They mentioned that he was a guard prospect, so I wonder if that's what he's going to come in and compete at. I think they're willing to move Spencer Burford out to swing tackle with Austin Pleasance, and that's where they're going to compete. Kyle also kept it open. We could bring someone in. We could end up getting somebody else that gets cut. So nothing is dead set when it comes to the swing tackle position. But Connor Colby fits the scheme. He played in a similar scheme in Iowa. They run the outside zone. So you got to see it play in and play out. A versatile player who played multiple positions that can do all the things you need to do within the offense. So he's tailor-made to fit this offense, and what the abilities that he has fits this offense. He's got good angles, which you have to have, landmarks and things in the 49ers offense that you have to meet. He could do that. So it's a solid pick. Definitely not what everyone was expecting. Everyone was expecting a more dynamic guy that could come in and compete as a starter, maybe beat out a Ben Barch, or a lot of people wanting Jake Brendel to be beat out. I don't know if Connor Colby provides that. I think he's going to be competing for a roster spot, and we'll see where it ends up laying out. But I'm glad they finally went offensive line, and luckily I broke down Connor Colby at some point. But fun player. He's going to be a nice addition. I think a lot of people are going to like his attitude and the way that he approaches the game.
Do you see him competing this season for a spot at one of the guards? If you think he's probably not a center, obviously he's not going to compete with Dominic Pooney, but at that left guard position, might he be part of that competition?
I think that he is going to probably get 13 reps initially. I think Ben Barch is going to be the starter as of right now. I think they'll let him compete with Nick Seagull. Now, Connor Colby is the antithesis of Nick Seagull. Nick Seagull is a very good pass blocker. Over a 72 grade last year on PFF in his time that he started at guard, where, you look at Connor Colby, this guy's the better run blocker. So these guys are kind of opposite, and it's who's going to get the other one figured out. If Nick Seagull could get his run blocking figured out, Nick Seagull will beat out Ben Barch. Like, that's how good he pass blocks. He's got a great anchor, and he's still got athleticism to be able to make the necessary lateral moves he needs to make and mirror defenders. But the problem is he doesn't run block good enough, and that's something this offense definitely needs. So Barch is the most balanced, the most consistent. Seagull is the best pass blocker, and Connor Colby might be the best run blocker of all three. That's what's going to be interesting. So I think he's in the mix. Just how much opportunity is he going to have to start? Injury could provide opportunity. It did for Dominic Pooney. We'll see what happens with Connor Colby.
Sounds good. Last pick, number 11, was Junior Burgeon, the wide receiver from Montana. Kyle has already said that, he'll probably be part of the wide receiver room, but he's here as a punt returner. He has 8 punt returns for touchdowns at Montana. So the big question for him is, will he be able to make this team? If he makes it, it's going to be as a punt returner. So can he make his mark so that he can make the team as a punt returner? Again, to do that means that there's another receiver that's not going to make the team. So how do you see this playing out?
Yeah, this is a Brant Boyer. This is his pick. They said he pounded the table. Him and the assistant special teams coach both pounded the table to bring him in. And it was interesting because at the presser, when they said, he's a wide receiver, what do you like? And Kyle was like, oh, yeah, we're going to throw him in the wide receiver room and see what he could do. But he's a returner. We brought him here to return. And that is so different from what Kyle Shanahan has said in the past, because he's been very clear that you need your return guys to also be able to play positions to maximize your 53-man roster. Now, he was a very good return man. So, yeah, there's a lot of ability there. I think he is here to push Jacob Cowing. They know how important it is to have a solid kick returner and punt returner. And if you think you can get an extra edge by getting a guy that could change field position or can change the game by getting touchdowns, you take a look at it. Maybe you do lose a roster spot somewhere to be able to have that player. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. I don't think we can expect anything from him when it comes to playing wide receiver. This is completely developmental, and he's small and he's not extremely fast. He's slower than Jordan James, the running back, playing wide receiver. So he's not a guy that has elite skills in any category, except maybe three cone. He's pretty good at that under 7 when it comes to that. So change of direction, that's what makes him a good punt/kick returner. But yeah, this was an interesting pick. I had to admit, I had never watched him play at all. And so I looked him up just to see his scores and stuff. And now I've kind of looked at his returns and kicks a little bit. But this is a complete special teams move. And you do those things in the 7th round. I don't expect anything from him when it comes to playing wide receiver. And that's an interesting dynamic for a Kyle Shanahan built football team.
Yeah, it's crazy that a guy can be not very fast and have 8 touchdowns returned, 8 punts returned for touchdowns in his collegiate career. Now, maybe the competition that he played against just wasn't that great. It's going to be measurably different now. So we'll see how that goes. David Morazza in the chat said, we haven't had a great returner really ever. Would be nice to have one for a change. There was this guy named John Taylor in the late 80s who was really, really good as a punt returner. Let's see who else they had. They had Don Griffin. Ted Ginn was really good. Don Griffin was good in the 80s. Dana McLemore was good. I think that I think that John Taylor and Ted Ginn were more on the elite side. It would be great. I agree with David. They need to find somebody who, because when you and I would do our live during the game back a couple of seasons ago, we talked about how if you have a punt returner who can average 10 yards per punt return, that's one less first down that the offense has to pick up. And so if you have one that can break some every now and then, change the momentum, change the field position, that's huge. And then if you have the guy who on occasion can take one all the way back, that's just a bonus. So yeah, I really would like to see them get somebody who like David said, who can be that great returner. We'll see if that happens, if this kid from Montana is going to do that or not. Let's see. Wavy Wonder said Dion 94 returned punts occasionally. I don't know if I remember him doing very many in 94 at all. Maybe they put him back there once or twice, but I don't remember him. Do you remember that? I don't really remember that.
Yeah, they would use him in key situations to put him back there if you needed a big play in a game. Primarily, they had Dexter Carter. Dexter Carter handled most of the kick and punt return situations back then. So, but yeah, Deion Sanders was a dynamite punt returner, especially with Atlanta. And they just used him in a couple of times like, oh, we need a big play. Deion, go back there. And a lot of times it just influenced the punt where they just directionally kicked it out of bounds or whatever. Try to keep it away from Deion. No one wanted that. One interesting thing about, too, the new rules, any touchbacks are going to go to the 35-yard line this year. So there's probably going to be opportunities for more return. That's probably why the 49ers put a little bit more investment into it. So I'm kind of excited to see what he could do. Why not, right? Let's make special teams fun again. And I think Brant Boyer's coming in with a certain attitude. So let's see, and maybe this will just push Jacob Cowing to be even better. I think that's the best situation for the 49ers is Jacob Cowing just becomes a better returner and he can go handle business. But if you can have a guy that can change field position, like you said, you get that extra 10 yards and all of a sudden you need one less first down to get into the end zone or to get in field goal range, and that can change a game in a big way. That's huge.
Well, Cowing's been grinding. We've been seeing the videos of him working out with Ricky Pearsall and Brock Purdy, and so hopefully he's putting in the work and can build off of that rookie year. Anything else you have before we take off?
No, I had a lot of fun this weekend. I want to tell everyone that's in chat, that came through the entire weekend. I really appreciate everybody. And there's been lots of the 49er fans are so good about understanding the draft. There was a deep knowledge of it. And so I like it. And what I love the most is you kind of question sometimes, like people are like, oh, why do we take this guy here? But what I love is once you get over that fact, you just love the player. And I love that from the fans. The fans were questioning some things that happened. Hey, why did we take this guy here? Why did we take him there? But then it's like, you know what? But I love the player. I love the fit. And that's the most important thing. And so I got to give credit to the 49er fans this week. Even though there's been ups and downs and ebbs and flows, everybody in the end goes, you know what? These are our guys and we're going to support them. And I think there's a lot of really fun guys that the 49ers got in this draft. And I think we can be optimistic that they hit it out of the park. And that's what I'm hoping ends up happening when we get to training camp.
Yeah. Great draft, great weekend, and hopefully this builds toward a great 2025 season. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to both channels. It helps us out, and we would appreciate that. We'll be back again next week. We're going to be talking about the undrafted rookie free agents that the 49ers have signed, so be sure to join us. There's one already that I'm real excited about. And do you want to take a guess at who that is, or even the position?
I do not know.
All right. Well, I'll save that for next week.
Ooh, nice.
Just to lure you back in. So everybody have a great week, and we'll see you back next Sunday.